The wind howled across the barren surface of Titan Omega, carrying crystalline particles that sparkled like diamond dust in the light of 3 distant suns. Nova Blackwood adjusted her atmospheric suit's shields, squinting through the swirling debris at the ancient structure before her. After 6 months of careful excavation, her team had finally uncovered what appeared to be the entrance to a temple that predated human civilization by millions of years. "Command post, this is Nova," she spoke into her comm unit. "I'm beginning final approach to the primary chamber. Readings are stable, but there's something different about the energy signatures today." "Copy that, Nova," responded Dr. Raven Walsh, her mentor and the expedition's lead scientist. "Remember, no unnecessary risks. We've lost too many good people to overenthusiastic exploration." Nova smiled despite herself. Raven's cautious nature had kept them alive through countless digs, but today felt different. The temple's energy patterns had shifted dramatically overnight, as if something inside had awakened after eons of slumber. The entrance loomed before her, its massive archway, carved from a single piece of impossibly dark stone that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Ancient glyphs spiraled across its surface, each one pulsing with a faint purple luminescence that hadn't been present during previous surveys. Nova activated her suit's scanning array, watching as streams of data flowed across her heads-up display. The material composition hasn't changed, but the energy readings are off the charts. It's as if the entire structure is breathing. She pressed her hand against the archway, and the world around her shifted. The glyphs flared with brilliant light, and a deep thrumming resonated through her bones. For a brief moment, she saw images flash through her mind. Vast creatures soaring through star-filled skies, their crystalline wings spanning the width of cities, their bodies radiating power that could reshape reality itself. "Nova, Nova, do you copy?" Raven's voice crackled through the static. "Your vitals just spiked." "I'm here," she managed, her voice shaky. "Something's happening. The temple, it's responding to my presence." Before Raven could respond, the ground beneath Nova's feet began to tremble. The entrance slowly parted, revealing a corridor that descended deep into the moon's core. Blue-white light pulsed along the walls in rhythmic waves, as if beckoning her forward. "Nova, fall back immediately." "That's an order." Raven's voice was tight with concern. But Nova couldn't move. Not away, at least. Something was calling to her, a whisper that bypassed her ears and spoke directly to her mind. She took a step forward, then another, her boots leaving tracks in dust that hadn't been disturbed for millions of years. "I have to know, Raven," she whispered. "This is what we've been searching for. This is why I became a xenorchaeologist." The corridor led her deeper into the structure, each step illuminating new glyphs that told a story she was only beginning to understand. The ancient race that built this place, they weren't just advanced aliens. They were guardians, protectors of something far more precious than mere technology. After what felt like hours but could have been minutes, Nova emerged into a vast chamber. The ceiling arched hundreds of meters overhead, supported by columns that looked like frozen lightning bolts. At the center of the room, floating in a column of pure energy, was an object that defied description. It appeared to be a tooth, but it was like no tooth she had ever seen. Nearly as long as her arm, it was composed of a material that shifted between crystal and metal, its surface etched with the same glyphs that covered the temple walls. As she approached, it began to pulse in sync with her heartbeat. "Raven, are you seeing this?" she breathed, activating her suit's video feed. Static was her only answer. She was too deep underground for signals to penetrate. The tooth rotated slowly in its energy field, and Nova felt a presence brush against her consciousness. It wasn't hostile, but its alienness made her gasp. Images flooded her mind. A vast network of temples like this one, spread across the galaxy. Creatures of impossible beauty and power, standing guard over the cosmos. A threat from beyond the edges of known space, held at bay only by their vigilance. And then, disaster. a betrayal that forced the Guardians into hibernation, their consciousness preserved in artifacts like the one before her, waiting for the right moment, the right person, to awaken them once more. Nova reached out, her hand trembling. The energy field parted at her touch, allowing her to grasp the tooth. It was warm, vibrating with power that coursed through her body like electricity. Knowledge began pouring into her mind. Star maps, coordinates, warnings, and secrets that humanity had never imagined. The chamber around her erupted with light. Glyphs blazed like newborn stars, and the tooth in her hands became a beacon, broadcasting its activation across light years of space. Nova knew, with a certainty that transcended understanding, that she had just set something massive in motion. "Oh gods," she whispered, as the full weight of what she'd done crashed over her. "What have I awakened?" The answer came in the form of a tremor that shook the entire moon. Far above, in the void of space, ancient sensors sparked to life. Dormant networks awakened, spreading news of the tooth's activation across the cosmos. And in the darkness between stars, something stirred. Nova clutched the tooth to her chest and ran. The temple was coming alive around her, systems activating for the first time in millions of years. She had to get back to the surface, had to warn Raven and the others. But even as she fled, she knew it was too late to stop what she had set in motion. The age of dormancy was over. The Guardians were awakening, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Stellar Consortium's flagship, Harbinger, cut through space like a blade of obsidian, its quantum engines leaving ripples in the fabric of reality. Admiral Theron Vale stood at the bridge's panoramic viewport, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of distant stars. The report in his hand contained information that would have seemed impossible mere days ago. An energy surge from Titan Omega that matched ancient legends of the Dragon Guardians. Admiral, his executive officer, Commander Iris Kane, approached with another holographic report. "We've confirmed it. The energy signature matches the prophecies in the Arcturus Codex. Someone has awakened a Guardian artifact." Meanwhile, deep in the research facility beneath the surface of Titan Omega, Nova Blackwood faced off against her mentor. The dragon tooth pulsed rhythmically in her grip, its power humming through her bones like a second heartbeat. "You don't understand what you're asking, Raven," Nova said, backing away from the older scientist. "This isn't just an artifact. It's alive. It chose me." Dr. Raven Walsh's normally kind face was tight with concern. "Nova, please. We need to contain this, study it properly. The energy readings alone could revolutionize our understanding of." "No," Nova cut him off. "The tooth showed me things. There's no time for careful study. Something's coming, something that only the Guardians can stop." The facility's warning klaxons suddenly blared to life. Through the reinforced windows, Nova could see multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace, sleek, black vessels that bore no resemblance to standard research or military craft. "Stellar Consortium," Raven breathed, his face paling. "They shouldn't even know about this dig. Unless—" He turned to Nova, realization dawning in his eyes. The tooth's activation. They detected it. Nova's mind raced. The knowledge flowing from the tooth had shown her fragments of the Consortium's true nature, an organization that had existed in secret for millennia, waiting for the Guardians to return. But whether they sought to help or hinder that return remained unclear. The facility's comm system crackled. "This is Admiral Vale of the Stellar Consortium. We have detected a Class Omega artifact in your possession. Surrender it immediately, or we will be forced to take more direct action." Nova felt the tooth's power surge in response to the threat. Images flashed through her mind. A vast network of temple worlds, each containing a sleeping guardian. The tooth wasn't just a key. It was a map, a beacon, and a weapon all in one. "Raven," she said quietly, "I need you to trust me, like you trusted my father before he disappeared." Her mentor's expression softened at the mention of James Blackwood, Nova's father, and his old friend who had vanished on an expedition 10 years ago. "Your father always said you were special. that you could see things in the ruins that others missed. The facility shuddered as the consortium ships initiated docking procedures. They had minutes at most. "The maintenance tunnels," Raven said suddenly. "They lead to an old emergency hangar. There's a scout ship there. Not much, but it's better than nothing." Nova grabbed her research tablet and emergency pack. "Come with me." Raven shook his head. "Someone needs to slow them down, buy you time." He pressed a data crystal into her hand. "Your father's last transmission. I never showed it to you because I didn't understand it. Maybe now, with that tooth, you will." Before Nova could protest, Raven was pushing her toward the maintenance access. "Go. Find the other temples. Wake the Guardians. Whatever's coming, humanity needs to be ready." Nova ran, tears stinging her eyes. Behind her, she could hear the facility's main doors being breached. The tooth's power surged through her as she sprinted through the tunnels, illuminating her path with ghostly blue light. The emergency hangar was exactly where Raven had said, and the scout ship looked serviceable despite years of disuse. As Nova rushed through pre-flight procedures, she could feel the tooth guiding her hands, showing her modifications that would help the small ship evade detection. Through the hangar's shield, she could see more consortium ships arriving. They knew what the tooth was, what it could do, but they didn't understand its true purpose, couldn't comprehend the vast cosmic game they were all pieces in. The scout ship's engines roared to life just as the hangar doors began to close. Nova gunned the thrusters, shooting through the narrowing gap into space. Behind her, Titan Omega grew smaller, its surface now crawling with consortium activity. She inserted her father's data crystal into the ship's computer. As it began to decode, the tooth pulsed with recognition. Coordinates appeared on her navigation screen. Coordinates that matched the star map the tooth had shown her. "I'm coming, Dad," she whispered, plotting a course to the first set of coordinates. "I'm going to find out what happened to you, and why you were searching for the Guardians." As her ship prepared to jump to hyperspace, Nova felt a tremendous presence brush against her consciousness. Somewhere out in the darkness between stars, something vast and ancient had sensed her possession of the tooth. It was awakening, stretching wings that could span solar systems. The first Guardian was stirring, and it was calling to her. The gas giant Helios 7 loomed before Nova's scout ship, its swirling storms creating mesmerizing patterns of purple and gold. According to her father's data crystal, somewhere within the planet's 72 moons lay another temple, and within it, a sleeping Guardian. The tooth hadn't stopped humming since they'd entered the system. Its crystalline surface rippled with patterns that matched the streaming data on her ship's displays, confirming what her father's notes had theorized. This wasn't just any Guardian site. It was a nexus point, one of the primary nodes in their ancient network. "Warning. Atmospheric anomalies detected," the ship's AI announced. "Multiple gravitational distortions approaching from Vector 739. Nova's hands flew across the controls as 3 consortium vessels emerged from hyperspace. They must have predicted her destination from the tooth's energy signature. The small scout ship dove between Helios 7's moons, using their gravitational fields to gain speed. "This is Admiral Vale of the Harbinger," a familiar voice crackled through her comm. "Dr. Blackwood, you don't understand the forces you're dealing with. The Guardians were sealed away for a reason." Nova ignored the transmission, focusing instead on the coordinates pulsing through her mind. The tooth was leading her to something specific. Not a moon, but a structure hidden within the space between them. As her ship rounded the largest moon, she saw it. A massive installation that seemed to be made of living crystal, its surface reflecting the light of distant stars in impossible patterns. "By the stars," she breathed. "Dad, you actually found it." The tooth's power surged, interfacing with her ship's systems. Ancient defense platforms suddenly activated around the installation, their weapons targeting the pursuing consortium vessels. Admiral Vale's ships scattered, forced to fall back or risk destruction. Nova's ship glided into a docking bay that opened like the petals of a flower. As she stepped onto the crystalline floor, the tooth's humming reached a fever pitch. The entire structure was responding to its presence, systems awakening after millions of years of dormancy. She followed the tooth's guidance through corridors that shifted and realigned themselves, leading her deeper into the heart of the installation. The walls themselves seemed alive, pulsing with patterns that told stories of ancient battles and cosmic guardianship. Finally, she entered a vast chamber that defied comprehension. In its center, suspended in a matrix of energy, floated a being that could only be described as a dragon. But that word barely captured its true nature. Its form shifted between states of matter, its wings composed of what looked like solidified starlight. Even in suspension, it radiated power that made reality itself tremble. The tooth pulled her forward until she stood before the suspended guardian. Images flooded her mind. The guardian's name was Celestrix, one of the first 7 who had stood watch over the galaxy since the dawn of consciousness. It had sealed itself away when the great betrayal came, waiting for one who could understand the truth of its purpose. Nova raised the tooth, which now blazed with brilliant light. The suspension field began to dissolve, and Celestrix's consciousness touched her own. The experience was overwhelming, like trying to comprehend the entire history of the cosmos in a single moment. "You carry my fang, little one." A voice resonated in her mind, ancient and powerful yet somehow gentle. "You have questions." My father, Nova managed to think back. He was searching for you. For all of you. What happened to him? Images crystallized in her mind. James Blackwood, discovering the truth about humanity's role in the cosmic order. The Stellar Consortium, originally created to protect humanity from external threats, had become corrupted over millennia. They didn't want to wake the Guardians. They wanted to harness their power, to use it for their own ends. Your father, Celestrix communicated, learned too much. He fled, taking with him knowledge that could undo the Consortium's plans. But in doing so, he discovered something far worse. The installation shuddered as multiple hyperspace windows opened nearby. The Consortium had returned in force, dozens of ships surrounding the structure. They cannot be allowed to claim this place. Celestrix's thoughts resonated with urgency. The choice is yours, Nova Blackwood. I can return to slumber, maintaining the seal that prevents a greater darkness from entering this reality. Or I can wake fully, bonding with you as my pilot, but risking the attention of those who lurk between dimensions. Nova thought of Raven's sacrifice, of her father's disappearance, of the truth hidden in the tooth's memories. No more hiding, she decided. No more seals and secrets. Whatever's out there, we face it together. Celestrix's form began to solidify, becoming more defined while still maintaining its cosmic nature. The chamber around them transformed, revealing itself as a vast control center. Through the Guardian's eyes, Nova could see the truth of the installation. It wasn't just a temple, it was a ship of impossible power. The Consortium believes they hunt us. Celestrix's thoughts held a note of what might have been amusement. They do not understand. From the moment you awakened my fang, they were the ones being hunted. Nova felt power surge through her as her consciousness merged further with the Guardians. Together, they could sense the other temples across the galaxy, feel the stirring of more Guardians in their ancient sleep. The tooth, the fang, had become a part of her, its power flowing through her veins like liquid starlight. "Show me everything," she said aloud, her voice resonating with new authority. "Show me what happened to my father, and what the Consortium is really afraid of." As Celestrix's knowledge poured into her mind, Nova realized that finding her father and stopping the Consortium were just the beginning. Something was moving in the spaces between galaxies, something that had been waiting for this moment for millions of years. The real war was about to begin. The temple ship Stellaris, as Nova had come to call it, moved through space like a dream-given form. With Celestrix's power flowing through its crystalline corridors, the ancient vessel could traverse distances that would take conventional ships years to cross. Through their shared consciousness, Nova could sense the vast network of temples awakening across the galaxy, each one a potential ally in the coming storm. "Another memory cluster," Nova announced, her voice echoing in the ship's central chamber. Her father's data crystal had begun revealing more of its secrets since bonding with Cellestrix's systems. The holographic display showed a string of coordinates, each marking the location of a temple hidden in plain sight. Your father was methodical. Cellestrix's thoughts resonated in her mind. He discovered our network piece by piece, always staying one step ahead of the consortium. But what he found in the void sector changed everything. Nova accessed the coordinates for the void sector, a region of space notorious for ships disappearing without trace. The data showed a massive temple complex, far larger than any they'd encountered so far. But something about its energy signature was wrong, distorted, as if viewed through a cracked lens. The consortium's headquarters, she realized, studying the readings. They built their base around a guardian temple. They'd been trying to harness its power all this time. A warning pulse from Cellestrix drew her attention to the ship's long-range sensors. 3 consortium battlecruisers had dropped out of hyperspace nearby, led by the unmistakable silhouette of the Harbinger. But this time, Nova didn't feel fear. Through her bond with Cellestrix, she could sense something the consortium couldn't. Other guardians, awakening and moving to intercept. Admiral Vale. She opened a communication channel, her voice carrying the harmonic resonance of her bond with Cellestrix. "I know why you're hunting us. I know what you found in the void sector. But you don't understand what you've awakened." "Dr. Blackwood." Vale's voice was tense. "Your father made the same accusations before he disappeared. The consortium exists to protect humanity. The Guardians are too powerful to be allowed to roam free. Their very presence draws the attention of things we cannot comprehend." "Things you helped release," Nova countered. Through the temple ship's sensors, she could see the truth, microscopic tears in space-time around the consortium vessels, invisible to conventional scanners. "Your experiments with the captured temple didn't just wake the Guardians. They created breaches between dimensions." The memories flooded through her mind. Her father discovering the consortium's secret facility, witnessing their attempts to forcibly extract Guardian energy. The resulting catastrophe had created the first tear, allowing something ancient and malevolent to reach through from another realm of existence. The Void Hunters, Cellestrix's thoughts carried ancient dread. "We sealed them away eons ago, in a space between spaces. Your consortium's meddling has given them a way back." Nova watched as more tears appeared around the consortium ships, tiny rips in reality that seemed to absorb light itself. Through them came whispers that made her blood run cold, the voices of things that had waited countless millennia to return. "Admiral." She tried one last time. "Power down your ships. The energy you're using, the technology you stole from the temples, it's making the tears worse. Let us help you contain this before." A massive shock wave rippled through space as reality itself seemed to scream. A tear large enough to swallow a planet ripped open behind the Harbinger, and through it came something that defied description. A vast, dark shape composed of angles that shouldn't exist, trailing tendrils of void stuff that consumed everything they touched. "By all the stars," Vale's voice shook. "What have we done?" The Void Hunter's presence sent pulses of agony through Nova's mental link with Cellestrix. The Guardians' memories showed her the truth. These were the beings that had forced the Guardians into hibernation eons ago, not through superior power, but through sheer alien wrongness. Their very existence corrupted the natural laws of the universe. The network. Cellestrix's thoughts cut through her horror. Your father found something in the Void Sector Temple, a way to seal the breaches, but he couldn't activate it alone. He needed a Guardian's power and a human consciousness to direct it. Nova understood. The temples weren't just sanctuaries or power sources. They were nodes in a vast defense system designed to maintain the barriers between dimensions. The consortium's reckless experiments had weakened those barriers, but with the Guardian's awakening, they could be restored. "Admiral." She addressed Vale again. I'm sending you coordinates. Get your ships there immediately. We're going to need every vessel capable of channeling Guardian energy for what comes next." The Void Hunter's tendrils reached for the consortium ships, but Cellestrix was faster. The temple ship's crystalline structure blazed with starfire, projecting a shield of pure energy that forced the cosmic horror back. Through her neural link with the ship's systems, Nova could sense more Guardians approaching, drawn by the disturbance. Each brought with them a piece of the knowledge they would need, not just to seal the breach, but to prevent the consortium from ever tampering with such powers again. "Your father isn't lost." Cellestrix shared a final memory. "He found a way to the Source Temple, the origin point of our entire network. He waits there, guarding the key to our victory. But reaching him will mean traveling into the heart of consortium space, facing whatever horrors they've unleashed in their blind pursuit of power." Nova watched as the Void Hunter retreated temporarily, its impossible form rippling as it gathered strength for another assault. She knew this was just the beginning. More tiers were opening across the galaxy, and with them would come more hunters, each drawn to the power of the awakening Guardians, with human consciousness to focus and direct that power. He looked at Nova meaningfully. She understood. Through her bond with Cellestrix, she could see the pattern, the way human and Guardian energy could weave together to create something entirely new. Around her, the other human pilots and their Guardian partners were reaching the same realization. "Everyone," Nova called out, her voice carrying both command and hope. "Form the bond. Let the energy flow through you, but don't try to control it. Guide it, like weaving starlight." The chamber filled with light as human and Guardian consciousness merged across the fleet. Nova felt their combined power flow through her, through Cellestrix, through the ancient machinery her father had spent a decade preparing. The Source Temple began to transform, its crystalline structure extending across space-time itself. The Void Sovereign roared in frequencies that shattered nearby stars, realizing too late what they were attempting. Its vast form began to pull back, trying to retreat through the dimensional tiers, but the combined power of human and Guardian had already begun to take effect. Reality itself seemed to crystallize around the tiers, not just sealing them but transforming them into bridges, controlled pathways that could be monitored and defended. The chaos of the void was being transformed into cosmic architecture, with humanity and the Guardians as its joint custodians. "It's beautiful," Nova breathed, watching through both human eyes and Guardian senses as their combined power reshaped the fabric of space-time. The Void Sovereign made one final attempt to break through, but this new barrier was different from the old one. Where the Guardian's original seal had been rigid and ultimately breakable, this new structure was adaptive, flowing, strengthened by the flexibility of human consciousness and the power of Guardian energy working in harmony. As the last dimensional tear crystallized into a monitored bridge, Nova felt a profound shift in the cosmic balance. The Void Hunters weren't destroyed. Such beings couldn't be truly destroyed, but they were contained, transformed from universe-ending threats into simply another part of the cosmic ecosystem, bound by rules they couldn't break. "So," James said, looking at the new reality they had created, "ready to help me explain all this to the consortium's leadership?" Nova laughed, feeling Cellestrix's amusement echo through their bond. The temple ship's sensors showed hundreds of new signals emerging from hyperspace, more Guardians awakening, more humans ready to bond with them. This wasn't an ending, she realized. It was a beginning. Humanity had found its place in the cosmos, not as conquerors or victims, but as partners with beings of incredible power. Together, they would explore these new dimensional bridges, maintain the cosmic balance, and face whatever other wonders or challenges the universe had in store. The age of the celestial guardians had truly begun.